guesses.
All right, how's everybody doing this evening? Having a good time? How many people here have given a talk they would call like a major presentation in front of a big room of people before? Yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? A lot of fun. Exciting? Well, it can be fun. Not gonna lie, public speaking can be, oh, what is this? I'm supposed to drink this.
It's clear.
It's clear. What is?
Cold medicine. It's a roofie.
Woo! It's water. What the hell is that shit? Get that out of here. I said I'm sick. I need medicine. So public speaking is really, really hard. A lot of people think that it is one of the most terrifying things that you can ever do. But really, if you put enough into it and you put a little planning into your individual talk that you're going to give, it can be a lot of fun to put together, and it can be a lot of fun to give, and it can be help you really succeed in your career and take things to the next level. Tonight, we're going to walk through how you can plan a good presentation, and this is a presentation. This isn't like the update on sales for your internal group, that kind of thing. We're going to be talking about giving big ballroom style presentations, kind of like this. Maybe on this scale, a larger scale, something along the lines of DEF CON, something like that. This is something that's really going to wow the crowd and make sure that once you give a talk once, you're going to get invited to speak again. Let's talk about some things that go into I'm being interrupted.
Sorry. So we have a tradition here at SecKC.
What's that?
Sick or not, you have to do a shot.
I'll do that. Here's to you guys, because without you guys, we don't have SecKC.
Cheers.
See, that's much better, much better. Okay, I got 3 things on the screen. Any good presentation at any scale, talking about any topic, needs to do 3 things in this order. You're going to come out of here knowing this. You're going to entertain people. People are going to come out of your talk saying that they had a good time. You're going to inform them. They're going to learn something new. And then third and finally, they might learn some really nitty-gritty details about things. Or maybe they'll get out and they'll want to change their behavior. The goal you have in mind is this. When somebody leaves your talk at a conference or even at work, they're talking to somebody else and they say, hey, what'd you do yesterday? Well, I saw this really cool talk by so-and-so. It was a lot of fun to watch. I learned about X, Y, or Z, and holy crap, am I going to do A, B, and C now? Right? So they had a good time, they got informed about something, and they learned something that they can take down the road. All right, so what else? What else? When you're going into this, what do you need to put into this? You need to put in some passion. You need to put in a whole lot of preparation if you want to do this well. And then when you're giving your talk, you want to have a certain amount of panache. You want to have a little bit of a stage presence. You want to be able to interact with the crowd and make people feel that you're comfortable with the mic and you're comfortable with them. It's all about establishing a connection between you and the people watching your presentation, okay? Let's talk about the first part. Let's talk about finding your passion. This is the most important of those 3 qualities. Why? Well, passion is really, really hard to fake. Okay, you want to see somebody faking passion? Go to a work meeting. Okay? Hey guys, we've got a new unified HR system and everybody's going to love using it so you can put in your PTO, right? Hooray! No, that's fake. We don't want to do that. And if you're going to present something like this, you don't really want to fake your passion about things. When you've got the right topic, a lot of these other things we're going to talk about come a lot easier. It's a lot easier to kind of own the room. It's a lot easier to interact with the crowd, and it's a lot more fun. Okay. Now you can't see the front of this, but one great example is somebody that gives a talk that is extremely passionate, and his passion about this is extremely contagious. Is Sammy Kankar. You just watch the guy and you get excited. You may not make tiny little hardware things, but when you get done watching his talk, you want to go do that too, okay? Passion can be tough. A lot of people ask me, I've done a lot of public speaking, I've talked at big cons like DEF CON or Black Hat, and a lot of people ask me, hey, why haven't you gone and spoken again? When are you going to do this again? Honestly, the answer to that is I haven't found the thing that I'm passionate about enough that's going to be new and a unique take to bring to something like that. I'm looking for that, but until I get there, there are other people that have topics that they're passionate about too. I could probably get up and I could do the annual legal roundup of big, cyber law cases. Damn, I should take a shot now. But that's kind of boring. It's not something I'm passionate about, and therefore I don't want to bring that in. Kind of a funny story. A few years ago, I was on the slate to give a talk on the annual e-discovery update for the law school for their big marathon CLE program. And for one reason or another, I was just completely jaded about my job and where things were in e-discovery, and I just wasn't very happy about the topic that I was trying to talk about. I tried to force it. I tried to sit there and figure out, how am I gonna find this fire in my belly so this talk doesn't suck for an hour? And eventually I decided I couldn't do it. And I did something that at the time I fully expected to be a huge mistake, and I expected to never speak in public ever again. I actually scrapped my entire talk and went up on stage with 10 things written on a napkin. And it was like cloud computing and mobile forensics, things that I thought were going to be interesting where technology and the law interact over the next couple years. And I got in front of an audience of 300 people and I said, I have no slides, I have nothing prepared, I have these 10 things. Let's have a conversation, interrupt me, ask questions as we go, and let's have a good time and see where it goes. I didn't end up completely crashing and burning. In fact, I got a lot of great feedback. What that means,
some slides.
What I learned from that is that a good talk is not at all about necessarily your slide deck. It's not about your handout. It's about interacting with the crowd and making that connection and sharing some things that you feel strongly with and getting people to buy into that. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, let's talk about writing the talk. Okay, now you've got your topic. How do you get towards achieving our 3 goals, which are in that order: entertain, inform, and then educate, right? Okay? So you got a presentation, you're really excited, you got your topic. What is the first thing that you do when you want to start working on a presentation on your computer? Anybody?
Outline.
What?
Outline.
Did I hear somebody say open PowerPoint? Because if you said open PowerPoint, you are dead wrong. No. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Why is that a terrible idea? PowerPoint's not a writing tool, first and foremost. If you're starting there, you're starting at the wrong end.
As a manager, I disagree.
Well, as a manager, you're wrong. As a manager, you probably want me to use your corporate slide deck template too, and I'm not going to do that. All right, so the graph that you see up here, which is difficult to read on this projector, kind of breaks down my approach to my time that I spend on a presentation. About 40% of this is actually mapping out my topic. Another 40% for actually writing the content, writing the words that I'm going to say, planning for what I'm going to do, and only 20% is spent on slide design. And really, I like to try to keep that smaller and smaller if I can, because when you're running up to a deadline, it's so easy to sit there and realize, hey, I need a cool looking picture of Steve Jobs on stage, and it needs to be this resolution, and suddenly you're sitting in there in Google image search hell for hours and hours looking at the same pictures, and you're dicking around with this instead of working on the words that are actually going to be coming out of your mouth, right? All right, this is, somebody did say outlining, which is awesome. Pre-writing. I say the word pre-writing, and I'm guessing that 90% of people in here are flashing back to freshman high school, where an English teacher had you go through pre-writing exercises where you need to do this, and then you do that, and then you get the note cards when all you want to do is write the paper so that you can go play PlayStation. And it seems very silly, because everybody in here is smart. Nobody in here really needed to go through all of those exercises in order to write a 5-paragraph essay for your English teacher. But it turns out that she was actually onto something. This process of mapping out your topics and breaking things down into categories and subcategories, things like that, it really helps you structure your ideas and plan out for individual points and individual slides. There's software that can do this. You can just take out a pencil and a piece of paper and do it. This actually is very, very helpful in chopping up the time slot too. You can look at a time slot that you've got to fill and you're worried, right? Especially if you did the wrong thing and opened up PowerPoint. It's like, I've got a 45-minute presentation. That means I need 90 slides. And if I'm going to get through these 90 slides, I better read the titles and then switch to the next slide as quickly as I can. No, that's not the right way to do it. If you want to split things up, if you think you can probably give 2 20-minute talks on a topic and then stretch a couple of other things out, that's a good thing. That's getting you closer to filling up all the time quota. Okay, then when you actually start writing things, this is where things get a little bit more freeform. Whatever kind of works for you. This is actually a screenshot of what I had going on this morning. I've got an outliner program open. I've got a text editor where I'd actually typed out some words, actually in prose, as if I were going to read it. Clearly, I'm not reading from the stage. If you want to see somebody read from the teleprompter, State of the Union will be on later on. Then I do have my slide deck back in the background there. Okay? How much you actually write kind of depends on what your own level of comfort is. Writing everything out will walk your brain through the words. So you may have an idea of what you want to say, but just by typing it out, it's going to make it easier for your brain to translate those into words when you have a mic in your hand. And once again, this is going to help you structure your presentation. So when you get in there, it's going to feel shorter. It's not going to feel like you're up there for hours and hours and hours. Why did I hit that again? Well, there's a little story. A few years ago, I was giving a talk on e-discovery to different HackerCons. And I got accepted to go speak at ShmooCon out in DC, which was awesome. And I got done with that, and it was successful. And I had a lot of people say, hey, why don't you submit this to Black Hat? So I get on and I submit to Black Hat, and Black Hat has a little box that says, do you have any special requests? And I said, well, you know, it's actually kind of hard for me to get through all the context that I need so that I can explain common law principles to people. It's hard for me to get through that in 50 minutes. So if I could get maybe a little bit extra time, that'd be awesome. What does Black Hat do? They respond by saying, that's great. We have a new track this year, and you're going to be part of it. Every talk on this track is 3 hours long. Holy shit. Congratulations, we'll see you in Las Vegas. So suddenly I went from having a talk that was fit pretty tightly into an hour into having 3 hours to fill. Okay? I definitely had to break that up into different chunks. Hell, I had to plan for breaks just so the people could stomach listening to me for 3 hours. Can you imagine that? God. I was sick of myself by the end of that. Holy crap. Okay, so what I like to do is I start long form. Okay, that thing that I showed there, all that prose, eventually I just scrapped most of that, but that got my brain going with how I was gonna work with the talk. Got my words flowing. And I took that outline, and then you start filling in chunks, pieces, different points that you want to make. And then finally, after I really know what I'm going to be talking about, that's when I'm going to start working on my slides. But let me stop. Before we get to the slides, I want to make a pretty important point. The handout will absolutely set you free. You might have given a presentation before, either one of these settings or maybe even at work, where you've got a lot of stuff to cover and you're worried about getting through it. And because your slide deck kind of sucks, the stuff that comes at the end really needs some explanation. It really needs you there to explain everything. If you have a full handout, typed out, not with the slides, an actual paper, then you are free to take questions, waste time, because you know that all the points that you're wanting to get across are in this paper that you're giving people out. You can reference that. You can skip over details. You know, you get somebody raise their hand. What kind of antivirus should I use on my wife's computer? Okay? Your answer can be like, hey, I don't need to answer that right now. It's in the paper. Check it out. I've got a list right there. We don't need to address it, and move on. It's really cool and it's really freeing. And especially if you give security awareness presentations, which I'm getting a lot of us do, you can write one security awareness paper that outlines the basics and recycle that thing over and over and over. Your slides might change, your demos might change, but the principles, the things that you want your attendees taking away from this, don't change. Okay? Endicott saw my talk. He probably read my paper. My paper that I gave out was from 2010. I haven't changed it, but hey, people should still use antivirus on Windows boxes. It's still current, okay?
Trend Micro.
All right. How about, before we talk about slides, some questions that should be frequently asked. For those of you that don't know, I'm also a speaker goon at DEF CON, which means that I help shepherd the speakers around, manage the talent, if you will. So I've watched
the speaker.
Oh, I'm not the speaker goon. I am a speaker goon. So consequently, I've watched a lot of talks, a lot of different approaches, a lot of bad mistakes. So let's talk about some of these questions that should be asked. Should I use Linux as my host operating system when I'm plugging into a projector that I've never seen before? No, 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 no. If you can't figure out how to use VirtualBox to get a Linux VM spun up on a Windows machine, probably shouldn't be giving the talk anyway. Okay? Should I use open source slide software? Something from like LibreOffice or something like this? No, 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 no. You should use Keynote or PowerPoint. Preferably Keynote, not PowerPoint, but whatever. Don't use something obscure. What about Google Docs? I hear that's great for collaboration. Yeah? So that way you and your presenting buddy can collaborate on the day of your talk at DEF CON and then show up to give your presentation and say, do you guys have network? Because all of our stuff's in the cloud. That answer on a Sunday morning, just so you know, is going to be no. Give it without. Okay? Let's see here. All right, it's 2016. Shouldn't I be able to plan on the projector supporting 1080 and HDMI? These are, no, absolutely, no. You will have 1024 by 768 by way of a VGA port, and you will like it. Okay? Not only that, you might be surprised whenever you show up and find a place that has a projector that only supports 800 by 600. And let me tell you, whenever you're messing with your slides, trying to get things to fit into that, the crowd is going to be a lot more forgiving when it's an 800 by 600 projector than it will a 1024 by 768 that everybody else during the day has had no problem with. Okay? Don't be cute. Get there, do your talk, and that's it. Nobody is impressed by the fact that you use Slackware on the desktop. Noah?
I think that would have been OpenBSD.
That's all right. Okay, quickly moving along, let's talk about slide design. Slide design is possibly one of the more fun aspects of this. Now you've got to the point that you've got your ideas fleshed out in a very clear and concise manner. You know what you're going to be talking about, for how long, been thinking through what you want it to feel like on stage, things like that. But here's the problem. Your slides all suck, okay? My slides also suck. I've given some very bad presentations. Actually, if you want to see one of the most terrible presentations ever, go back and find my talk. The first time that I spoke at DEF CON, I broke every one of these rules that I'm telling you to do now. I was putting together the slides on the airplane. I was choosing this font that was like chicken scratch because I thought it made me look like edgy. Yeah, but it turns out the font just wasn't very readable. Not a very smart kind of thing. Okay? Here's where you start. Now, let's say that you've been chosen to go speak at B-Sides, DEF CON, Black Hat, something like that. SecAC, someplace, especially that if somebody's going to pay for your travel or anything like that, you want to put your best effort into this. Go buy yourself a copy of the book called Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds and read it cover to cover. It's going to sound very familiar because I cover a lot of this stuff. But I bought that before I went out to Black Hat because I knew that, well, these people are paying me. I better step my game up here, okay? Buy it, go through it, read it, love it. Get some taste, okay? Look at some design stuff. Don't look at your Android phone for design cues for your slides. You want things that are minimal, easy to read, things that are going to be easy to read back in the back of the room. We could spend hours and hours talking about nothing but slide design. Okay? Let's break down some common problems here. All right, so slides like this are bad for the presenter. They're bad for the presentation, and they're bad from the audience. Okay? They distract the audience from the center of attention, which is you, the speaker. Okay? And it distracts from the points that you're really trying to get across. And you're thinking to yourself, well, these are important points. That's why they've got a bullet next to them. That's why they're on the screen. But here's the problem. When you've got stuff like that, it's too easy for you, the presenter, to fall into that cardinal sin of reading off the slides, okay? If you want to add emphasis to a point, okay, don't put it as a point on your slides. What just happened there? Did you all notice that? As soon as I switched this slide to a picture that didn't have any text, all of your eyes shifted from the wall of text that was there back to me, and you're seeing me make my point again. Make sense? Anything that takes the audience away from you is bad, right? It's one of those things that we learn in trial advocacy. It's another kind of fun thing. If you guys are watching any of these courtroom, like real life, true crime things, and the like how to make a murderer, if you watch the attorneys on there and what they're doing, whenever you see somebody giving a direct examination, meaning they're asking open-ended questions of their own client, they're always going to be out of the way. So the client is talking to the audience over there. But if there's cross-examination going on, meaning I'm hostile to the other guy, I'm standing in between the witness and the box, and I'm the center of attention. Okay? Kind of a cool thing to watch. It's a very simple technique, but it illustrates my point. When people are there to listen to you and you're making the points, don't distract them from the center of attention. Okay? All right. All right, I'm sorry. I know that I'm picking on people here. I love you all very much. I really do. But boy, putting text on a GIF is the new clip art.
We love you, Adam.
It's kind of, can be kind of funny, but you can do better than this. You can do better than this. It's not that much better than the big wall of text. You can even take this. You can even find a bigger picture of Grumpy Cat, take it the entire size. You're still getting your joke out of the way. You're still getting your meme quota, but it looks better. It looks more professional, okay? All right, here's another one. Oh man, code on a screen. But my Python's great. I want people to see it and love it and be impressed with the Python that I can write. No, nobody in the back can see it. I can't see it. And even if they could, they're sitting there trying to parse it, and they're either thinking, I have no idea what this guy is thinking, or, wow, that guy's code sucks. Okay? The other thing is, you gotta realize that for a large portion of the people in the audience, if you're showing code on the screen, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Scratch. Most of the people in the audience aren't going to know what that code is or what it does. It all looks like regular expressions to most of the room. Okay? Okay, so now that you know that you get that out, and if you had any questions about this as you're going through and you're thinking, boy, I ought to add a code snippet, think to yourself of those three elements here, what is that code snippet going to add? Is it going to be entertaining for people? Is it going to inform them of your new syntax highlighting? Or is it going to educate them? Maybe educate, but you're not giving a talk in a Python class. Okay? So don't show the code. Oh, buddy. So now it's time that we talk about live demos. This is one that I've broken this rule. As a general rule, live demos are a bad idea. Live demos are a very bad idea because live demos almost always break. And when they break, they train wreck. And when you are sitting there with just silence in the room, while people wait for the lamp to turn on, okay? Because that's all your demo is. You're up there with 4 computers, 3 of them are running Linux. You tried to plug them all into the laptops, all so that you can make one lamp turn on, and it doesn't turn on, people will get up and leave the room. Who was in that? Wayne, were you in that talk? 2 years ago, there was a guy that, yeah, I think you both were in there. There was a guy at DEF CON that gave an Internet of Things talk that crashed so bad, the room was half full at the beginning, and by the end, I swear there were 20 people there. Because he sat up, sat down, read his slides, and then gave a demo that crashed. It was bad, it was embarrassing. I felt bad for the guy. He did not get a speaker patch, but boy, it's pretty rough. Now, I take that and to the other side of that coin, the very same year on the same stage, we had this group called Red Balloon get up. Okay, these guys from Cornell or something like this, and they gave this incredible talk where they broke into a corporate network And they rolled in there, and I'm running the stage, and these guys roll in with just Pelican case after Pelican case, bringing in this gear, setting up a printer, setting up a switch. It was nuts, and I was like, are you guys really going to do a live demo? They're like, yep, it's all live. I'm like, are you sure this is going to be a disaster? They're like, nope, we've done it a zillion times. And sure enough, they had, and they were able to get everything done. I've never seen anything be done like that. They must have practiced it 10,000 times, taking it down, putting it back together. You're probably not going to have that much time. Certainly if it's your first time, you don't have a big crew with you to make that happen. It's pretty tough. Okay? What can you do instead? Okay, because we all like to see somebody pop a box. You might have seen that Dave Kennedy's talk a few years ago where he was showing off Fast Track. And he pops like 20 boxes in the course of an hour. It's great. But that's so hard to pull off in person. How can you do that effectively without risk? Make a screencast of it. Hell, in Kali Linux, screencasting is built in, right? Take a screen recording of it, put some music over it. You can narrate what's going on whenever you're giving the talk. It's stable, it's always going to be there. Highly, highly recommend that. On the other side of the token though, putting those together is really hard because you're going to want to get it exactly right whenever you do it. So sometimes you might have to kind of break loose and you might actually do it live. I actually did this. For my talk that I gave to the lawyers this year, I used Metasploit and Meterpreter, and I actually broke into a Windows machine from Kali Linux live on this laptop, and I gave that talk probably 8 different times. The live demo worked fine every single time. Why did it work and why was I confident enough to do that? Well, first of all, I knew it was repeatable. I tried it. I tried to see if it would bug out and not work. I felt pretty confident about that. But here's the other thing. I used only VMs, and those 2 VMs, my victim VM and my attacking VM, I didn't do anything to those other than use them for my talk. Okay? No patching. I didn't even open documents because it was in a known state that I knew that it was going to work every single time. The goal there is to work it so that you can get up and give the demo just by hitting the up button in your bash history. You want to have it right there to be like, yep, nope, I can do this right here without even knowing any of the commands because I use this VM so little. When you do that, the demo works pretty well. I thought it was pretty fun. But always plan on things going completely pear-shaped. So even if you are going to do a live demo, maybe have a screencast sitting there as a backup. All right? Anybody has any questions or anything like that as we keep going through? I'm doing pretty good on time, but feel free to ask questions. Okay, so now you got some slides. Now you got an outline. Now it's time to put everything together and then edit the living hell out of it so that it accomplishes our goals. What are our goals? Entertain, inform, and educate in that order. Okay? Talks are fun. Talks are fun. We're going to make this fun. Practically, how do you make this happen? You got your outline, you got a slide deck over here, you got things kind of mixed around. What I like to do is take that outline and take the individual parts and pieces of that and copy them into individual slides. Right? So I've got cues about what I want to do, what I want to talk about, and I've got them matched up with my slides. So I know that I've covered all the material in my outline, I know I've got everything accounted for, and then I've also got everything all in one spot. Okay? If everything's going well, you can get to your presenter notes through Keynote, in my instance, right here. It's actually what I'm doing right now. But of course, you're going to prepare for everything to go badly. So you can also print out your little handout, your traditional handouts, with your slides, with your notes right next to them. When I spoke at Black Hat, I was nervous enough that I just planned on everything not working. I showed up with a binder and all my materials for 3 hours worth of talking in hard copy. So if none of the projectors worked and 500 people showed up, it was cool, I was ready to go. Make sense? Backups, backups, backups. All right, so we're putting this all together. Now we've talked a little bit about the passion and choosing your topic. We've talked about the preparation, but how do you turn that into some panache? How do we make that? How do we make this exciting for folks? What you see on stage or on the slide right here, how many people have heard of TED Talks before? At this point, it's not terribly obscure, they're everywhere. One of the things that happens whenever you're selected as a TED speaker I'm talking about real TED, not TEDx, real TED. They send you a block of stone with 10 presentation commandments, which sounds awesome. I want one of these so bad. These are all very good. I didn't transcribe these. You guys can Google them yourselves. You should the next time. But I think they're all very good. Of course, one of them is don't read your slides. You know, some of these things are pretty basic. A couple of other resources for putting this all together. Like I said, Presentation Zen, and then there's another book on slide design called Slideology that's pretty good. But really what you want to do is you're trying to develop your style, or you're trying to see examples of people doing this right. There are lots more examples of people doing these type of ballroom presentations right. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Steve Jobs, whether you like the man or not. The man kind of brought the idea of don't suck at presenting back into the corporate lexicon. Because great presentations, one of the things that I really like to watch his presentations for are his pacing and the fact that he is always extremely cool. You see when a demo starts to go haywire, he's very cool under the collar, even though he's going to turn around and fire 10 people as soon as the presentation is done, even if it went fine. That's, you know, you want to be as cool as that.
This demo is about to go haywire.
What is this?
Oh, you know who I am.
Oh, man. Oh. I'm not even going to sleep tonight now. All right. Cheers.
Robitussin.
Ooh. Not going to cough now.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Stephen Colbert? Yeah? One of the things that I like that Stephen Colbert does, certainly back when he was doing his old show, not the new weird show with a band, when he used to do the thing called The Word, right? He would talk and then words would show up and then people would laugh. That shows you how you ought to interact with your slides. He reads his copy off the teleprompter like there's nothing going on beside him and then people laugh. The slides are there to emphasize and occasionally draw attention. But you don't want to be interacting with your slides. Be more like him. And when we're talking about educating and informing, who is the absolute best explainer type speaker in the entire world? No question, Bill Clinton.
Hell yeah.
We're all going to see way too much of Bill Clinton here in the next few months. But when you do, pay attention to how smooth he is and how he can take a very complex subject. Now, some people will ask me, how do I take a complex subject and break it down? Try to look, even though it's not going to be directly the same way, look at the way that Bill will take something and just break it down into simple components so that you can be on board with things that are affecting the international economy. I think he does a great job of that.
He plays saxophone.
And he plays saxophone, which we won't hold against him. Oh, if you want to boo, you just wait for the next slide. There has been somebody else that has emerged on the public stage as somebody that I think you ought to watch and pay attention to for some very minor points on public speaking. Yes, groan, boo, everything like that. Say what you will about what the man says. When he gets in front of a stage, he needs no teleprompter. He needed no preparation. But he has enough panache to stand there and absolutely own the stage and own the crowd. And when things go haywire in the audience, as they typically do, kind of like they are here, the man is never, he is never falters when he's up there. Okay? So, you know the press is going to make you watch him anyway. Watch him at least for those reasons. Okay? What about some more hacker people? Now I didn't pick anybody out here, and there are lots and lots and lots of other speakers. I was coming over, driving over from my house, thinking about all the other people I've left out. A couple examples of great speakers in the security world that you might want to check out for one reason or another. Jason Street, who has spoken here before, illustrates one of the most important parts of speaking. Tell stories, and tell a good story. Okay? Jason tells great stories about him out there and pen testing and breaking into stuff. You may come away with nothing else from here, but you might come away here, remembering some funny stories I told about the shenanigans I was involved in whenever I was trying to go give talks, which I'll bring up here soon. Okay? Tell stories. Stories are engaging. Stories are entertaining. And entertaining stories fit in with our first of the three goals, right? Okay. About these two jokers. This is Charlie and Chris, who give lots of talks on car hacking. Okay, If you haven't watched one of their talks, you should. It's entertaining. I could show one of those talks to my parents, and they would come out being entertained. They would know something more, and they probably would turn in their car and go buy an old mid-90s, GMC truck or something like that, right? These guys are great. A lot of the stuff that they pull off is really difficult to do, especially in a pair, but remember, your goal always is to first entertain, then to inform, then to educate. Really, you can just take things and watch a bunch of TED Talks. You can find people that are giving great presentations that are very engaging, they're not terribly long. You also understand that, hey, you don't need an hour to make a pretty salient point if you want to, okay? All right, so now you got your slide deck together, you got your handout, everybody's got that, okay? Now we're planning for the big day, right? Plan on everything going completely upside down. Projector's not gonna work, the mic's not gonna work, the podium is actually in the other corner. This was actually a problem for my talk at Black Hat. This was a room that held probably 2,000 people, and it was wide. It wasn't very deep, but it was very wide. And they had a stage in that corner and a stage in that corner, and the screens were on both sides, and they wanted me to stand in the middle. Not near the laptop, anything like that, but I had to roll with it. So plan on everything being completely wrong. Be ready to give your talk with no slides whatsoever. If you've been doing your slides the old way and reading from your slides, that's probably terrifying. But if you do this the right way, you'll be ready to rock no matter what. Get your adapters together the night before. Give yourself plenty of time to go to the Apple store if you have to get the right adapter. Never count on a conference or anybody else having the adapter that you need. I have been in that situation. For my first talk at DEF CON, I had to get an adapter from the crowd. That was a hoot. And charge all your things. Right now, I hope the battery doesn't go dead in my laptop because there's no power up here. Had to plan for that in advance. Put your notes on all your things. Have a copy on your phone, have a copy on your laptop, have a copy on your tablet. I uploaded all my stuff into Slack today, so that if I needed to, I could just hop onto somebody else's machine and download the things out of Slack, and I'd be ready to go. Okay, work with the organizers. If you do one of these professional talks, they're going to get a hold of you in advance. They're going to give you some little form that you're going to want to ignore. It's going to say, please fill out all of your AV needs, and please send us a copy of your deck. Well, you're not going to send them a copy of your deck. You're going to send them a copy of your handout. But you're going to want to work with those people. They're very nice, but they really don't have a lot of say in the way things go, okay? If you've ever been to a big conference or a big hotel and you see the AV staff wandering around, those guys are walking ATMs for the hotel, okay? Because every time you ask a guy that's wearing an AV shirt to do something, they're going to charge somebody for it. So don't walk into a room in the middle of a conference and say, hey, this isn't any good, and find the closest guy in a hotel shirt and say, hey, you need to move that drop over there, that over there, and then I need the podium moved over here. A, they probably will say no, and if they don't, that's because they're going to charge the conference organizers a huge amount to do that. So when you get in there, roll with it. Roll with it. They will offer you a laptop. They do this all the time. We'll have a laptop sent in advance, so just send us your deck, and we'll have your deck loaded up on the thumb drive. Do you trust that? No, it's probably an old laptop, different operating system than you're used to. If you were to give them a PowerPoint presentation or a keynote presentation, you're rolling the dice that all the fonts that you have inside of your presentation will be installed on that machine. You don't, you're going to show up, all your fonts are wonky, and nobody can read anything on the screen. Okay? How do you work around that? Always bring your own machine, always be ready to help yourself. I also like to, you probably saw that on the desktop before, I actually export all of my slides to PDF. Because I've got a PDF of this, I can just open up Preview on a Mac, take it full screen, and I'm giving the exact same presentation I would be in Keynote, right? That's also why you didn't see any builds, any effects, anything like that. It's distracting, and it's just stuff that can break, okay? Oh yeah, let's talk about booze. Okay, so this applies especially in the hacker world. And of course I am breaking my own rule, because I did just take 2 shots on stage. But I know that a lot of talks people get up and they're kind of drunk, or they encourage drinking from the audience, or they are drinking themselves up there. One of the most mind-blowing things I ever saw, first time I went to DEF CON, I saw Dan Kaminsky get up in a tent in the middle of the night in the desert. It was hot, and the guys at 13, that's right, Bill was there, and the guy's got beers just laid out, and he starts, and the way that he warms up the crowd is he says, hey, every time I make a mistake in my presentation, I've got to chug a beer. And the crowd goes wild. It was a lot of fun and everything like that. But here's the thing, by the end of his talk, he was a sloppy disaster. Okay? And that's fine for Dan, because Dan can get a job from people that know that he's a sloppy disaster or was at one time, and it's okay. You don't have that luxury. You are not Dan Kaminsky. Okay? Remember that. Remember that. This also goes for the night before. Okay? I kind of have a policy of my own that says I don't travel. If it's more than an hour away, I do not travel on the day of a talk, period. I always want to get there, I want to be comfortable, I want to be relaxed, I want to have time to work on my slides, and if I got to drive down to the lake to give a talk at noon, and I got to leave the house at 5 o'clock, that's no good. So I go down the night before. That is not licensed to go out and stay up until 3 taking shots with people you haven't seen since law school to get up and give an 8 o'clock talk, theoretically. I don't know anybody that's done that before. In theory, the way that can go is you get up and maybe you've got enough adrenaline going that you can power through your own talk, but when somebody informs you, oh wait, you actually have to sit on the next panel, so you need to sit down now for the next hour while these judges talk about stuff, that's really bad, because you might throw up on stage. I didn't throw up on stage. I didn't throw up on stage, but it was really, really rough. So keep your wits about you. Don't do anything stupid either before or during your talk. If you want to go get hammered, do it after your talk. When everything's all done, everything's cool. If your talk went well, people will be buying you drinks anyway. Okay? That's enough about the booze. So now it's go time. Okay? Now it's time to bring Party Track. What's Party Track? Party Track was our departed fake name for the track that I ran at DEF CON. But how many people, baseball fans here? Everybody remember Jose Lima? Yeah? This was back when the Royals sucked. I'm sorry, I know it was almost like 4 years ago, and not many people watch baseball. Jose Lima had a thing called Lima Time, and he said, hey, when I'm playing, it's always Lima Time, because Lima Time is about feeling good and partying, okay? Party Track is all about having a good time and people learning things, okay? And you want to bring that spirit of Party Track and up there having a good time to every talk that you give, okay? So when you get up there, you know, like I said, be relaxed, don't travel on the day of the talk, check in with the organizers, figure out what punches you're going to have to roll with there when you get into that room, okay? When somebody says, we have a various options of microphones for you. Do you want a lavalier? Do you want a handheld mic? Do you want to use this thing on a podium? Okay? My preference, handheld mic. Second, lavalier. Third, that thing behind the podium.
What's a lavalier?
The lavalier is the wireless mic. Okay? You got to pin this little mic, it's like a little boom, onto your shirt. Doesn't work worth a darn if you're wearing a t-shirt. You look really goofy when you're doing it. I've not been to a conference that's fancy enough to give me the thing with the tape to your face, so I can't give you any opinion on that. But I much prefer this. It gives you something to do with your hands. If you're new to public speaking, you don't know what to do with your hands, and if you don't know what to do with your hands, you look like Ben Carson. Okay? Remember Ben Carson, the guy that's still running for president? Watch that guy the next time you see him on TV. He has no idea what to do with his hands, so he's like, all the time. It's so weird. It's so weird. When you get up there, try to warm up the crowd. Encourage questions and answers. If this is a topic that you're passionate about and you consider yourself an expert in, you should be able to say, Q&A is a good thing, within reason. So, I'm speaking at PumpCon, in Philly. And PumpCon in Philly is a very small conference, smaller than this meeting. And it takes place at the Best Western in Philly. You can't really shut down the Best Western, so you'll have randoms walking in. So you've got a bunch of hackers and you've got a bunch of random people coming in from West Philly, which those are weird people, okay? And I'm sitting there, I'm giving a presentation on e-discovery, and somebody raised their hands with a question. I'm like, oh, thank God, I was running out of slides. What's your question, sir? And what's what's the guy from A Beautiful Mind? Nash. Yeah. What's his first name? John, yeah. So the guy asked me, straight face, so how does all this stuff with e-discovery fit in with the theories of John Nash? I'm sitting there trying to think, am I missing something? What in the hell? And meanwhile, like half the audience, all the actual hackers are just laughing their ass off. This is some random dude that is clearly off of his meds coming in here. I have no idea. So you never know what the audience is going to bring up. The other thing is that you never know when there's a camera in there. And this is especially a problem with something like DEF CON, because you never know what people are going to ask. And this is all on the record. Well, Phil Zimmerman and some of these other guys are totally okay with doing a full hour of Q&A with no predictability of what's going to be asked, and they've got to answer everything. Good luck to them. I prefer Q&A afterwards. Okay? All right. Once you get in there, deal with the audience. Like I said, when you're done, do Q&A. Always have a bunch of cards to hand out. People might want to reach out to you later on. Have a stack. I don't have a stack with me tonight. Sorry, you know where to find me. It's on Slack, probably in Outhouse. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and wrap things up and cover once again, what are our 3 goals of any presentation? In this order: entertain, inform, and then educate. It's not on there anymore, is it?
No.
How about that? Awesome. Hey, you guys have been very great and very attentive. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, I will be back in the back to hear Dave's talk. So thanks a lot. I'll see you next month.
Keep that going, everybody. Keep that going.